Rubicon Denizens Parade is here, aka the bringer of rain, aka Father of the Sea and Sun, aka King of the Core. And I'm here with my co-host, the host of the Celebration Cantina, Uncle Sheev on Twitch.tv, aka the Wizard of Oscars. He has unlimited. Eli from the Fan Awakens. How are you today, sir?
I'm amazing today. We have a lot going on. You know what, Neil Nation, you know I had to represent for y'all.
Stand up.
You know I had to represent. We had to represent for Neil Nation.
Neil Nation.
He had a big moment in this episode. We've come to the end of this journey.
We are.
And you know what? Feeling pretty nice.
Okay. We finally have made it to the season finale of the Skeleton Crew. 8 long weeks. It's finally over. And we are going to talk about that episode. But before we do that, we need to do some housekeeping, some promotion. That's how we keep the lights on here at reigncore on YouTube. You can also check the reigncoreclothing.com to get cool shirts. I make cool shirts there. We also have reigncore Etsy, where we sell cool stickers. I'm showing off the old, the dewback, and Eli has the Volp text from the sequels. You can also pick up logo stickers, the reigncore logo stickers. I also have the cute Lothcat stickers, the Critter Collective on Etsy. You can find it there. And then I'm also live streaming on Twitch, reigncore. It's actually with an underscore, so reign_core. I do live streams every so often. We're reposting them on YouTube because I feel like that's where the audience is. And I'm having a good time playing Star Wars Hunters. Eli was kind enough to check me out there. He says everything looks good and sounds good. So
I'm bad at the game, so it's fun to watch. Because that one I just don't have. So it's a lot more entertaining watching you. So I'm in the chat usually. So you come hang out with me.
Yeah. They had some questions for me last time, but I'm still trying to find the balance of reading the chat, paying attention to what's going on in the game. There's some lulls, like waiting for matches and stuff. So, and maybe we'll do like giveaways there too. We're going to try to do giveaways here on the YouTube channel. Eli, what do you got going on your end?
You know, mostly just Twitch, YouTube. We're supposed to have video out. I had an audio flub, so that video will be coming out next week, sometime next week.
Yeah, it happens.
But you know, Fan Awakens on Instagram, on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitch, Uncle_Sheev. Pretty much it, man. That's where you can find me.
Nice. I'm gonna put you on the spot really quick. What movies have you watched this week that you added to Letterboxd, where we're both at? Eddie?
You know what? I actually didn't log any because I've been watching nothing but TV shows.
Oh, okay.
It's a little slow this week for movies.
Okay.
And Letterboxd doesn't let you add those shows. But Severance just came back, episode 1. Check that out.
Oh, okay.
Silo had its season finale. Check that out. Then, you know, just rewatching some stuff. But those are the big ones.
Okay. I'm making my way through Extraction 2 because I keep watching it super late and falling asleep. So far, not as good as the first.
I agree. Still enjoyed it.
But still enjoyable. I want to see it all the way through. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the Skeleton Crew, episode 8. Real good, guys. Okay. Eli, search your feelings. Tell us what you know to be true about this episode.
What I know to be true about this episode, episode 8, the final episode of season 1. Maybe the series, maybe not. There's some things in the air. I thought it was pretty good, you know, like I thought it wrapped up the questions we had. Lots more references. I feel like they laid out a couple things that were going to happen in here, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't know that it had that big emotional punch for me, but there were some nice moments in there. Yeah. Specifically, I think some of the character moments were pretty spectacular. Some of the acting stuff was really good. So you know what? I'm feeling satisfied, but not wowed. You know.
I'm right there with you, actually. I'm a little cold on this episode, and I think it's because of the reasons you said. It wasn't like a mind-blowing episode. To me, it was very safe, right?
Yeah.
I think they're also trying to play it safe because they've had a lot of missteps with Star Wars previously, like Acolyte and some other shows, Kenobi. So they wrapped it up, I think, well. I think what we got wasn't bad. I just don't think it had that big punch. We talked about offline. We talked about Nosferatu and that not having like a big punch, right? It's very similar to in that vein of expectations and predictability, playing it safe.
I love that comparison there. That's nice.
It's two different. This is what came to mind.
I get it. I get it though.
But I mean something like Wicked that has a big punch right at the end, defying gravity and all that stuff. Another video coming soon to the Rancor channel. Me and Eli recorded that one, but be patient. It's coming. But it wasn't bad, and we'll talk about it. We'll go through what we liked. And it starts out with where they left off at episode 7. Jod had the lightsaber out, and again, not really using it to any.
Yeah,
it didn't make sense. It was just, it felt like the cliffhanger to the last episode to be like, oh, is he gonna hurt anybody? But he just says, hey, I'm the emissary, and then everyone's like, oh, you're the emissary, and I'm like, oh, I didn't want that. That wasn't what I wanted, because it just makes the people of that Atten feel stupid.
It does. Makes them feel stupid, naive. The droids feel kind of dumb and naive.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I hate to say whatever. Like, that's bad analysis and all.
Sure.
But like when I was watching it, it was sort of like, okay, I was similarly hoping that there would be kind of something else there, but they just kind of accepted it.
Yeah, and I don't know. To me, it just, I like when my shows and my movies have like a lot more nuance and a lot more bigger meaning behind it. Like with Andor, like there's a lot of meaning behind a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of weight. Where this didn't carry weight, is just like, oh, Jod's lying again. These people just obliviously believe him, and they're just kind of moving the plot along, which is fine. But
there's some things where, like, with the structure of like Atten, right, and how dense this procedure seems to be behind everything. Going back to a point I kind of talked about with last week's episode, which something else I didn't love, and this kind of compounded on it, was that I understand that we understand no one's seen an emissary or whatever the case in a long time,
right?
But I do feel like that's something they would learn. Like, this is what they look like, this is what they wear, this is how they act.
Yeah,
like this is the procedure of it. This guy looks like a pirate. He looks like he's in any sort of official uniform. He's also a Jedi. I don't know. Go ahead. I'll expand on this later.
Yeah, no, but I mean, to that point, and we could talk about it now. They did say in the episode, oh, we haven't seen an emissary in a long time, and it's been generations of people just kind of born into it, and then they're just kind of doing this great work, and there's just ideas of what it could be, and when Jod shows up, they're like, oh, I guess it is what it is because he got in. So I get why they're a little stupid or naive to the situation. I just didn't prefer it as a consumer. That's all.
Yeah, I guess so. I just, in my head, I'm like, they definitely have textbooks or pictures or instructional video or something. Like, they do everything. Someone's got to know.
So I'm like, what kind of status does this emissary have to just come and take them?
Yeah.
It's very weird. And I hope that they, like, in maybe a season 2 or in something else, they kind of expand on what's going on with the lore of Atten. Because I'm very curious still.
Me too.
How all that was established, because we'll jump to it. They get to the top of the tower, and it's a droid. Like, it was something we predicted, but not a giant.
Yeah, not some R2D2 big head. Hive mind. Yeah, R2D2 like on steroids.
Yeah, very Wizard of Oz again, right? They're now visiting.
Very like Space Odyssey too. It was like Wizard of Oz, 2001 Space Odyssey mixed together.
Yeah.
But it is funny. You did mention Wizard of Oz, and that's all I could think about for a while when we got to that point.
But there was like no guy behind the curtain. It's just the droid. And it's funny because even Jod goes, you guys are ruled by a droid? And Farah's like, yeah. Like, it was like she knew about that, which was also weird to me.
Weird,
so
for sure.
I'm like, who set this up? I'm very curious who set it up. But what was interesting was when he said the last message from the Republic, all Jedis were deemed traitors. And he goes, which are you lying about? Are you an emissary or a Jedi? And I was like, I like that a lot, because the supervisor is smart enough to suss that stuff out. And to me, the Republic they've been talking about has just been the the Galactic Republic, right? Order 66, when they decided when the Emperor decided the Jedis were traitors, but then they changed it to the Galactic Empire, so they never checked back in after that. So I'm curious who the last emissary was.
That kind of stuff I like, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, okay, wait a minute. Okay, here's an interesting thing though. So an emissary hadn't been there in how long?
he said
Generations?
generation. So you would assume uh, from the Galactic Republic all the way
Yep.
to after the Empire falls, right? Because we're already in the Resistance era. So 40, 50
Yeah, I
years.
guess so. Yeah.
So
I'm just trying to think,
Vader's,
like,
so
is that
Anakin's
long? Like,
life. Yeah.
there's people though who would have been alive before that on Manhattan, you know?
Yeah. But
So
maybe not at
like,
the level of like knowing
maybe not.
who the emissary was. Because if you can imagine that ship landing and then just going down and then just leaving, you would
True.
never see the person, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. I do like that sort of stuff though. It's not like you're not banging you over the head with exposition and things. It's,
Sure. Yes.
you know, you can infer this from what they're saying, and I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was one of the cooler, like that sequence, I guess, sequence of scenes was one of the highlights of the episode.
I completely agree. Because even since he goes, oh, Undersecretary Farah, because I've been watching you and your daughter with great interest. I
Yeah,
was like, oh, okay. There's, I
love
was like,
that.
there's my Palpatine
Yep.
prediction. That would have been cool if it's like a like his conscious kind of like
Yes.
manipulated into the droid.
I do think it was definitely referenced. I mean, when they show, it's almost like Vader, but with all the hoses like Palpatine had,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And that's what I was thinking of when you, and then when it started to turn around, like I don't know if this is going to be someone or not, but then quoting Palpatine essentially, I was like, that this feels like a just a big amalgamation of loose reference to, I don't know. I feel like they were trying to like, oh, is it a person? Are they on life support? Is it like
yeah.
a shriveled Sheev? I don't.
Yeah,
I
I
think that's a
thought that
cool.
too. Yeah, I thought that too. I was
Yeah,
like, is there a man like all like kind of stuck in here? Very Game of Thrones, the dude in the tree. I can't remember off the top of my head,
yeah.
but something like
Um,
that, akin to
he
that.
was in The Force Awakens. He played. He was the first person we hear.
Oh,
First person that speaks in The Force Awakens.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Sydow or some.
yeah, Von Sydow.
Yeah,
Von
yeah, yeah,
Sydow. Yep.
yeah.
Lord Santeca. There you go.
Nailed it. But in that room, like when they go up, it's all dusty and stuff. I'm like, there's no real people up here.
No,
There's, like,
yeah,
hasn't been
I
a person
know.
up here in a long, long, long time. But I would like to see maybe like a montage of like how the supervisor was established in Skeleton Crew season 2. Like I would like to
It
see
is
that.
interesting. Yeah, and I mean, it looked like that place was populated with people working.
Yeah,
Why aren't they working out? You know, like
it's
whether they just
weird.
don't need
It's
them. I don't
weird.
know. Some questions.
It's weird. It's weird. There was a scene where Wendell and Wim are having dinner, and like you referenced before, the security droid's like really watching them. Even when they just
Yeah.
talk, it like just turns. It's a very, it's just camera just like focusing in on them as they speak. And Wim tries to tell his dad, but without saying anything. Like, there's certain
Yeah.
people out there who want to ruin what we got going on here. And Wendell's just like, well, that's what the supervisor's for. That's what the security droids are. I'm like, oh god, this guy's an
You-
idiot.
Yeah, he drove me crazy this whole
Yeah.
series. But even in this episode, it wasn't as bad as I feared it was gonna be
Sure.
at a certain moment in the garage. But
Oh right, yeah.
I was like, dude, please don't just sit
He's like,
here.
we just walk and just, oh, the power is out. He's like, oh, it's just, he's like, oh, it must just be a power outage. Oh, the neighbors. And I'm like, this guy is just oblivious. I did
Yeah.
like his line though when he started to get with it, when the kids were trying to get into the Onyx Ender. They're like, oh, we could get the power back. It's in the supervisor's tower. And he's like, Dad, can you take care of it? And he goes, well, you're talking to a level 7 systems coordinator. I was like, okay, cool. That
Love
was
that
cool.
too.
He should have been shot and maimed or something just to make me
Yeah,
care
I
a
know.
little bit more.
I agree. That was the moment you called that. It would have been him. It probably should have been him. Something's gonna happen to him, but
Yeah,
obviously it didn't.
it
But
didn't. He's fine.
that scene was like, I like that moment too. It was nice to see Women as Tad, you know, on the speeder bike trying to save the day together. It was a little goofy in practice, in execution, I think, for a bit I guess it's a small nitpick, but after he turned the power back on, that scene was a little goofy for me, but it's okay. The show was fun. When they were going on the speeder bikes though, hey, we got to talk about My boy Neil.
Your boy
You know
Neil.
what? He's a warrior. You know, he
He
got
is a
blasted
warrior.
off that bike. Maybe he planned it. I think he's smart enough. He's like, you know what? Let me hang back here real quick. Let me get on the big gun.
No, no. Well,
And
I mean, I still think like he got hit, right? And he fell
no,
off,
he did.
but he's like tapped into his warrior from Akron, right? Hena, she kissed him. She showed him the turbo laser. He goes, turbo laser. I got it. Turbo laser.
Time to shoot.
Yeah, time to shoot. Try to save my friend. Before we get to that part, let me back up just a little bit.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to mention, when the droid, the supervisor, says like, "Hey, you're a liar," and he's like, "Attack." I was like, "Oh, this is cool." But Jod's like, "I'm gonna just Qui-Gon Jinn stab this thing in the eye,"
Yes.
and then what was crazy was that was like the power grid. It just like took out all the power, and I was very surprised that this one thing controls all the power. Like the cars went out, the other security droids went out, and so they were like really defenseless at that point.
I guess like part of me like, okay, I thought maybe it would have to do with that big nuclear core thing that was in the episode, you know? But to be fair, I guess that's like the brain of this whole place, so maybe but yeah, he did go Qui-Gon on that. You know, he showed some lightsaber technique though. He was
That's true.
You know, dissipating those stun blasts,
I don't
right?
think we've seen that before. Have we seen that in Star Wars before?
I think we have.
Maybe in animation?
It maybe is animation,
okay.
But I feel like we have.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more recent though. Did Ahsoka do it? It doesn't matter. Regardless, I think that
in the comments, let us know who dissipated stun blasts.
All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, you can handle the saber a little bit, and we do get into. I guess at this point, we can say that spoiler that we thought was a spoiler, but I guess wasn't a spoiler. Because it never came up.
We can talk about it.
So obviously, after that first episode,
it was episode 1.
Look up Skeleton Crew.
Episode 2, actually.
Yeah, it was episode 2. And I'm like, let me just type in Skeleton Crew. Let me look up like the cast and their names. They never showed her, right?
No.
It was a listed Jedi, with the last name Nana Wood.
Yep.
And I forget who it was now because now I don't see it.
Oh, I wonder if they pulled it. It was on
maybe.
I know New Rockstars talked about it because they were like not saying anything until this episode.
Yeah.
They were like, it could have been a deleted scene, but there's no reference or source for what happened, right? And so yeah, me and you saw it and we were just like, oh, there's a Jedi in this show somewhere. But what was interesting is she has the same name, Nana Wood, that Jod has, and now I'm thinking his name's actually not Jod. He just adopted that name like he does all of his other names.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But I'm wondering if there is a scene that they had as like a backstory thing, because that's what we were predicting, and they pulled it, and maybe they'll use it for season 2. Because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And I have thoughts. About the end and predictions to what we possibly could see in season 2. But Jod also says when he has everyone hostage in the tower, we just want our fill of credits and we'll go. Do you think he was lying there?
I do think he was lying. There's no way. He sees those credits. I don't think you're moving on from it. You know, like greed is too much. Those pirates are too much. Also, I don't think it would have gone over well with like all the pirates. Like, hey, just gonna fill the ship and go. Like, but there's thousands of these. There's more. 1,000. You know, so I don't think so. I think he was lying. He came off as a liar in that moment. He's a serial liar. I don't trust him.
Yeah, and every character in the show told us not to trust him. So I think they were right. One of the cooler things in the episode was all the shots of the frigate coming out of the clouds. Oh, it was so cool.
So cool. I agree.
It like centered over into frame, and then it was just like above the town, and then there was they had a cool soundtrack with it, and then like the guns aiming down and the music stops, and then it shoots, and then it's just like total chaos. I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's some of my favorite spaceship stuff in Star Wars in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty tight. It was pretty cool. You know, he's like, so what did he say? We're start the siege or
invasion. Start the invasion.
Invasion.
Yeah.
And it was a nice scene. You know, they invaded. You know, and I also like that scene too when the barrier did go down.
Oh,
in that brief moment of like, sort of wonder where everybody's looking to the sky. They'd never seen it.
Yeah.
And then having that replaced. You know, well, no, I guess that was at the end.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. But I did like that scene. I liked when the frigate came through. You know, they launched all their little
Little ships,
the
yeah.
little ships to invade this Ad-Atten.
And some skiffs
And
too, some like open
it was
skiffs.
interesting though, because Jod essentially his goal was to become the new supervisor, because he's like, I want to kill you guys. I want you guys to get back to work.
Yeah, he's
Like
like,
I'm not trying
I
to.
want you guys to be employees or slaves or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
he wasn't trying, but it's interesting though, because he wasn't just trying to load up and run.
Right.
He was trying to
Yeah.
and which is ridiculous considering how much money's there. You don't need him to work.
Yeah, they don't really
But
need to. But again, it's his unsatiable hunger / greed that
yep.
that he wants. And yeah, I don't know what his plan was going to be after they made all that money, but I mean, with all that data, you could build an army if you wanted to.
I'm curious
Get clones.
if they took all that money for the New Republic and then they got blown up by Starkiller Base. Maybe it's all gone. You know, like
Yeah.
where did that money go? I don't know.
That's in the predictions. I have predictions. I got predictions.
Okay.
They also, when they invade, Neil gets lit up in this, and he's in the tub.
Oh my gosh!
Like he gets home, time to jump back into the tub.
Of time, gotta get time to relax.
Yeah. He's chilling out, man. He's chilling out.
I aspire to be that relaxed.
Yeah, and Wim actually comes up with a plan, or all the kids do, or Neil, KB, and they come in the bikes. They're like, oh, the hover bikes work, or spear bikes, or whatever they call them, and they're like, let's get past the barrier. Let's reach out to Kim. She'll send the X-Wings. The X-Wings will get rid of the pirates. So I was like, oh, this is not a bad plan. I like this plan a lot. And there was a moment where Wendell sees Bon Falfa from episode 1. and then he's on the bike. And I thought the speeder bike thing is okay. They're hiding a lot of the CG, I think, in the darkness because they look a little rubbery, but that's fine. That's fine. And also, too, I think I saw online, or New Rockstar said, Bon Falfa is a reference to Harrison Ford's character in American Graffiti. It's like Bob Fatha or something.
Okay.
So I was like, okay,
that's cool.
That's just not a random thing.
Yeah, I agree though. The speeder bike scene, it did feel like that's the moment you're like, okay, this feels TV, but like it's fine. Yeah. It didn't really pull me out of it. It's just like
Yeah. And it was just like kind of building up the suspense. I feel like every TV show or movie, they go, we need to have like a chase scene or something. And I'm like, I'm not into that kind of thing. And so for it to happen, I was like, okay. And then they try to give Wendell a moment where he's like, I'm too heavy to get over the canyon. And then he gets over, and then it just kind of falls flat for me. Or because he's
agree.
like, woo. And I'm like, oh.
Like, I get it. He probably does nothing exciting ever. But
right.
It still did feel a little.
It felt a little flat.
Yeah, it felt a little flat. I agree.
He should have been like, wizard, I don't know, something else. His delivery is also kind of like all over the place. So
yeah, I agree.
But one moment I did like was Fern and Far having a one-on-one secret talk, theater whisper to each other.
Yeah.
But Fern's line and her delivery here was great. The galaxy is scary and dangerous. Everywhere we went, even in the worst places, there was good people too. And I really like that as an encompassing, like, for real life, we're traveling and we're talking to people outside of our bubbles, and there are good people, there are nice people. I mean, even just with me and you meeting online, now we're friends, we've met in person and things like that. Us going out of the country and exploring, because a lot of times a lot of things are vilified outside of America. So it's a nice little reminder, like, hey, there's good people all over, and also, not everybody's bad.
That's a great point. Great line also. Mm-hmm. I also think she's the winner of this show. I know it's not winners and losers, but like, I think that she did the most for herself. And I'm not saying that to bring anyone else down. I just think that she was great. She was a standout.
Yeah.
Even in this finale, there was, like, with the KB moment, I thought she was incredible in that scene. Yeah.
She's really brilliant.
When the ship went down. And so, we'll talk about kind of what we expect after the season.
Yeah.
But I do think that she will probably, I don't know that she'll pop up in Star Wars again if they're not doing more, but I do think that she probably got herself some jobs from this show. Yes. I think she's pretty great.
Hopefully they'll get more seasons, but I could see her trajectory being very similar to, like, Millie Bobby Brown and getting more stuff. Maybe a Haley Steinfeld, right?
Less eyes on this, but, like, still, I think performance is really good. And she had a lot of performances, like, a lot of scenes with Jude Law, and killed it.
So Wim and Wendell finally make it up into the tower, and the elevator opens, and Wim's there, and he tries to bluff John. He's like, I called the X-Wings. And John's like, the barrier jams and all. And then he's like, well, we found the Crystal of the Founders way up in the northern mountains, and a whole Jedi army's on their way. And I'm like, oh, you just went too far in the lie, because he's like, he knows about Jedi, dude. And he's like, the Jedi are all dead. Right? And then Fern tries to reinforce the lie, and I'm like, you guys are really messing this up. But it was more of the distraction, which Fern was talking about with her mom. She's like, we just need distraction, keep his eyes off of whatever. I'll grab the droid gun to stun him. But in this moment, Wendell's sneaking up and hitting the button to get the power back on, which I didn't mind. I actually didn't mind the sequence of events to get Wendell to do. It was more believable than anything else he's done.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was fine with it. I like to have someone get off in these tense situations of this whole series. But I get it. But this is the kid show.
I agree. But hey, you know what? I was just watching, Bill Burr was on Kimmel. He made a joke about how, his kids are just watching Disney stuff, but he tries to stay away from that because a parent always dies.
Yeah. I saw that
Disney's MO. So you know what? I get it. Wim doesn't have mom either, so that's a little tough.
They already got her. They already got her.
He could have done something. I don't know. Maybe his dad could have lost a hand.
You keep on trying to get these hands out of Star Wars, man. I could have seen Farrah go or Wendell go. I didn't think it was going to happen, but if they did, it would be interesting for the characters moving forward. But that could be a season 2 thing. But I doubt it now, because I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, same.
Like, it should have happened already, and it didn't happen. So
they did Wendell no favors in this show.
No,
but
they didn't.
I just thought that could have been like a, could have been a moment. Or so for Wim, an emotional moment for Wim to have.
Or even just getting shot and then just like, Logo, I love you so much and I'm sorry I'm leaving, or Fern apologizing to her mom like, I'm sorry I'm rebellious and I don't listen and I'm stubborn. And then like she's still alive at the end of the season, like we see her in a cast, But I don't write the show. Like, I said that last
I was gonna say, now I'm just thinking about like if something did happen to Wendell and then Wim has that moment where he's apologizing. I'm sorry that this night. He's like, it's okay. You're just like your mom or whatever. And then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're adventurous just like your mom was. And I'm still trying to figure out how his mom died, because everything on Atten seems like above board, like there's like no danger. It's the utopian
forklift accident.
So I was hoping that she would have left and that's why she's not there. But
hey, season 2, you never know.
I don't write this show. Just call me John Watts. Call me. One scene that I really liked, KB heroically, they get the Onyx Cinder out of the cuffs, and she's flying the ship, and they're like, "How are you flying the ship?" And she's like, "I have someone with me." And then my boy SM-33 is back, headless.
Called it.
Headless and still back. John's like, she shouldn't do that. He says something to the lines of that, and I was like, I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
And it gets out of the barrier. Very cool scene, right? The Onyx Cinder breaching the barrier. She calls Kim. Kim is like, or she's like, let's get the X-Wings over to you. They'll be there like very fast. And the frigate shoots the Onyx Cinder down. And this becomes a moment where like, is KB about to die? And I'm like, I hope they're not killing KB right now. I was like, that'd be kind of crazy to kill this kid on this show. Because she's already escaped death once, right? With her.
I knew they weren't so bold, but I loved the scene.
Yeah. And it falling, and I'm watching it close because I was like, if it explodes, then she's done.
Yeah.
But
we've seen Kylo, the
that's
when
true.
She hopped out last second. I don't know. KB has or not KB, SM-33 has some sort of parachute protocol.
Yeah, some I am Groot protocol. Like, covers everybody up. It's not the first time the Onyx Cinder crashed, from what I could tell from episode 1. But hero moment from Neil. As the ship's going and the cannons are aiming, Neil gets in the turbo laser and shoots that thing.
Straight shooter. On point.
Yeah, like knew exactly what to do.
He took out the turret. Said, "Hey, done my job."
And he just starts taking off because they target him and they destroy the turbo laser. But it was enough to get the message out. And as it's falling, I think Jod says she'll never make it. And just very intense as it's going down, but it does like level out at the last second and no explosion. But Fern doesn't know, and she expresses that
Great
scream.
moment. I also think that I do appreciate the commitment to Jod's character not having, because I mean, you could have had a moment where they're gonna shoot KB and he tries to call it off, or he gets like cold feet. He didn't. He's just like, I didn't want this. I didn't want these. Like this didn't have to happen. I didn't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But basically, I'm trying to get my money, and that's not like
Yeah.
nothing's gonna get in the way of that, and that never really changed.
Yeah, I really like that about his character because they even established that in my favorite episode, which I think it was 5, when they're at
The
Lunupa.
Indiana Jones episode, or
Yeah, the Indiana Jones episode, and they were like, pirates don't care about lives; they care about money. They care about money, and I actually believe him that he doesn't want to hurt anyone, because there was a lot of moments where he could have shot everybody in that room and not have to worry about anybody. But he's like, it didn't have to be like this when KB went down, because he had rapport with the kids, right? He saved their lives on that Akron before. Fern tries to run and turn off the barrier, that little pole thing, and he does shoot at them, but it was a warning shot. I don't think he was actually trying to hit somebody.
Yeah, same.
Because I think he could have easily hit Farah.
He seems pretty accurate to me.
He seemed pretty accurate, yeah.
Got that force touch.
And he force pushed Wendell over. It was a whoa, Wendell. So. But as he's getting pushed and everyone's like, it's the chaos, Wim grabs it and he's like, don't do it. And Wim has the famous Ahsoka line, you're no Jedi. And, kind of goes from there. And then we get Jod's backstory. What do you think about the monologue here?
It's fine. I feel like I just was kind of already expecting this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
To some degree, I'm sure they'll want to go further into it.
Maybe. But go ahead.
Maybe, yes. I think in some way, shape, or form, we'll at some point learn more. Whether it's a comic that I probably won't read, or like probably not a novel, but in some way, I bet they'll address it at some point. But
yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like the most interesting thing in this monologue of his backstory was they hunted her down, so we know it's Order 66, or assuming it's Order 66.
Yeah, I assume that.
And he watched her die. So I was like, that would have been cool to see, to understand Jod a little bit more. And now thinking about it, I'm not even sure if he'll be in season 2.
That's what I was, yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
So I was like, maybe they cut it out because they're like, well, breaking the fourth wall here, they might not be able to afford Jude Law for another season, right? So, they might not even need that backstory. But
you might be honest. I feel like they could afford him because he's the only one that costs any money on that show.
Oh,
pretty
that's
much.
True. Yeah.
Like Nick Frost, he's not that big of a name to be honest, acting. And it's a voice role.
Yeah.
And I think he's the one cast member, but I also don't think that. I don't know that there's a whole lot more to tell with this character, Like, he's going to break out of jail again? Like, we need Jod to figure out, whatever the story is.
And it's like, I hate to be that guy, but I'm not really compelled to see more about his story, because I feel like this was the apex of what he wanted, and he ain't getting it. So,
to be honest, I'm not that compelled to see a season 2. Unless it was something where it's like, oh, now they're adults, or like almost like an It, where it's like, okay, we're checking back in, but like I can imagine they'll somehow be written into Exegol, I feel like they're definitely going to be there, like, oh, that ship, and then in the next digital dictionary,
the Onyx Cinder is actually back on Exegol. Yeah, I can totally.
It's going to be there, and I like that kind of stuff. But like you could make a story about that. I forever wanted. I've wanted like an animated show in between episode 8 and 9.
Yeah.
So I think that if they did do something like that, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, oh, Pilot Wim and Pilot KB and the crew is helping on this mission, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I think, another prediction, I'll just say it now because we're talking about it. How cool would it be to have the skeleton crew, right? Neil, KB, Fern, Wim, Omega from Bad Batch, and then Kanan's son.
Oh yeah,
so you kind of have like the Young Avengers building out here for the next generation.
Wait,
so.
What about Din Grogu?
Din Grogu, the Mandalorian on the team, right? God, I don't want to see that. I don't know if I want to see that. Some like green. Yeah, no.
Full Beskar, small Beskar armor.
Okay, maybe I do want to see that.
Okay, wait. Question. Sorry, tangent. Is Grogu's helmet gonna have, like, is it gonna like clamshell to fit his ears, or is his ears gonna stick out?
His ears, if they're like Yoda's and like ours, no cartilage, so you could have the Beskar pointed. He could still put it on, and then the ears would just kind of go in. I don't think they would be out, but it would be interesting if he just keeps it flat in the helmet. But I've seen that online where it's like, do you metalize the ears? Do you leave holes open for the ears? I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting. But they cover most of their skin, and like there's not much revealed, and that's part of their, you know, their clan there is not to show anything. But that's neither here nor there. tangent. But Wendell punches Jod. Fern tells Wim to grab the lightsaber. He grabs the lightsaber. He flips it around, make sure it's pointing the right way this time. And Jod starts force pulling the lightsaber towards him. I thought the kids were going to let it go and it was going to stab him. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen. And they might have thought about writing it that way and then decided not to.
I could see that. That could be a little dark.
Yeah.
Plus, the kids having to live with that, you know. And it's like, it's one thing if he was abusive, mostly verbally though. If he would have like he wasn't hitting him, you know, hitting the kids and stuff. Like
it's backhand Neil around, just like backhanding Neil.
I mean, don't get me wrong. People definitely died during that siege by his call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were shooting. They were blowing stuff up.
I think they could have done it, but I think they don't want to write Jod out if they want to go back to him. So I could see why you would keep that character alive. But in this scene, Wendell's trying to pull the override, and he's getting his hand force pulled, and you can hear the bones cracking. And then Farah finally helps, pulls the override, and then the bright light, the sun. I don't know if it was the sun. The sun's in their eyes. Or like, hey, it's nighttime. Where's all this light coming from? The one thing I liked was Wim lighting the lightsaber. I was like, that's kind of cool. It doesn't lead to anything. He didn't use it at all. It's just like, get out of here or whatever. But the barrier dissipates. We talked about it. It was a really cool effect. Like, it had like a cool sound of it dissipating. Yeah. And they're all finally seeing the stars. They've never seen the stars before. So that was awesome.
You know what? You just made me think of like Wim with like basically like a military recruiter. And it's like, hey son, you're not going to be a Jedi, but you know you can be an X-Wing pilot. So how about we, go do that? And I could see what I think Wim would like that. You know, he still gets to be a hero, different way.
Yeah, I think that's what they're alluding to at the end. But at this scene, we look at the stars, and boom comes a squadron of X-Wing fighters in formation. And they're shooting. And then we also get the B-Wings. Oh, so cool. I said B-Wings!
So pumped. Yeah, so pumped. B-Wings always deserve more love. It doesn't matter if they get a lot of love. They still need more. You know what I mean?
Need more.
It was awesome. It was awesome seeing those.
First time live action. We seen it in Rebels. Hera gets the prototype one from the little Akbar looking dude, the Mon Calamari guy. And it shoots that ray and destroys the frigate. And all the VFX in this portion of the show I really liked, because as the X-Wings fly through, there's like a cool little smoke cloud effect, and then just the frigate like crashing and falling through at Atten and Jod like watching it through the window. I was like, this is really cool. Like I'm
always intrigued by like budgets in general with TV and movies.
Yeah.
But I do love the old classic save it for the finale.
Yeah.
But this wasn't even save it for the finale. It was like save it for the end of the finale. Because it takes such a step up from like we're talking about the speeders, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, the animation was incredible. The CG was great.
And it's smart because it's the last thing you're usually left with, right? Because if you do it, let's say you do it you put the budget in like episode 7, and then the budget doesn't get to the end, you're like, oh God, like Act 3, or not Act 3, the fight in Black Panther, like the Black Panther versus Killmonger fight, everyone makes fun of that CG not looking good, and that's kind of the last thing you're left with at the end of that movie. And I think it's smart of them to put most of the budget into the X-Wings, and then the Corvette coming through the clouds.
Love it.
As Wim's looking up. Oh, so cool. And I'm like,
you're
not a Jedi kid, but you could definitely join the Resistance.
Yep. Love that. I love that too. He's definitely there. They're going to find someone with some curly hair in the background of a shot in one of the sequel movies.
Yeah.
That's Wim.
That's Wim.
They're going to... I love that about Star Wars though. There's always a way to retcon. Make something make sense.
Yeah, retcon characters in. Yeah. I like the idea of them being older, but I think you could wait just a little bit because they're growing so fast. Like even in the online in their interviews, they look a lot older than they were when they
Yeah.
filmed this. So it's totally possible. And
Yeah.
with their schedule, like they don't even have one. We don't know if there's a season 2. Andor took what, 2 years, 2.5 years? Is that right?
A lot of shows now take, yeah.
It takes a long time. So they could simmer on this and figure out if they want to continue with the Skeleton Crew season 2 down the line. But just to finish it off, KB's alive. The Datteries pour out. She said, "Did we win?" A call back to the droid in episode 2 is like, "Did we win? Did we win?" But they do their big hugs. All the kids, they're all hugging, and they're like, "Let's get out of here." The ship's falling apart, and SM-33 is there with his head, and Neil picks up the little rat. He picks up the little snowball thing. He's still alive.
Oh yeah.
We get Wendell yelling at Wim, "Wim, Wim!" You know, very classic. Feels very classic, like 80s movies kind of thing. Kevin,
Definitely
Home Alone
does.
kind of thing, right? But yeah, that's Skeleton Crew season 1. Before we get into predictions, I did want to ask, what would you rate the entire show on a scale from 1 to 10? And we'll take half points, so 20-point scale.
A little tough. It's a little tough.
Yeah.
I would say probably give it a 6.5. I don't mean
okay.
that in a bad way. I like the show.
Yeah.
I still think, being fully honest, if this was like on Netflix and it was original IP, I probably wouldn't have finished it. But that's not to say that it wasn't good. I would like to try and watch the show with my nephew.
Yes.
I think he'd probably like it.
Yeah.
I do think they did play, like kind of like you said, I think they played it safe in some spaces where they probably could have taken bigger swings, especially with the finale.
Yeah.
And especially with a show that is so shrouded in mystery every episode that I felt like you just kind of bunted at the final the final at bat there.
Yeah.
I think 6.5, but that's a fresh 6.5. It's not, I'm not giving it, we're not giving it a D here like the, the grading scale.
Yeah,
it's
5
still
is
fresh.
average.
I like the show.
Above average, yeah.
I think it's one of the better shows they've made. Lots of good stuff. The score is really great.
Yeah.
Some of the acting was, some of it, maybe wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with a pleasant 6.5.
Okay. I was trying to decide if it's a 7.5 or an 8.
Okay.
I think the quality is there. I just don't think we are the audience for it.
Yeah, I agree.
We like more mature, heavier, like Andor, that espionage stories. And I texted you. I was like, I kind of like my Star Wars with wars in it. And adventures, if the adventure's good and fine, I would rather have it like with adults, with heavier, themes. This is not an awful show by any stretch. It's a really good show.
No.
Better than most of the Star Wars shows we've gotten. But I think we are not the direct audience for it. I think, like you said, it's for your nephew. It's for my daughter. It's for a younger crowd to jump into Star Wars. And then now let's expand as these kids, this younger audience grows into what Star Wars could be. I think it's for them. So I would probably say it's like a 7.5, 8 for that audience. But for like you and me and older guys in our late 20s, early 30s, I don't know how. I would have to know the person I'm recommending it to as something that they could watch. But I think the show would be better bingeable. So I think if I watched it once all the way through, kind of like a movie marathon kind of thing, I think it would be easier to consume versus the week to week, because it just felt like we weren't getting anywhere fast enough. And to me, the high point was that Indiana Jones Lanupa episode, because that's what I wanted from this show. I wanted like adventure. We can't go home for like 3 seasons. Like the final season is us, like out of 4 or 5 or whatever. The final season is when we get home, but we're like 5 years older than we were. That's like what I want. But that's not what they gave us. Cool. So
I don't know. It's interesting too, because I think Star Wars at its best is when it is for everyone. Like it's not just for, like, this is the kid show, this is the adult show, this is I think that at its best, and that's not to say that's all it should be, because I don't think it is all it should be. There are some inconsistencies in the show that is, I think, why I brought it down a little bit. Okay. But I agree. I do think it's a fun time. Yeah. Shot pretty well. Like they had a clear vision from the beginning to the end. Yes. Like there was no, like, I think they did make the show they intended to. It wasn't like weird knee-jerk reactions where things don't make sense. Yeah. So yeah, I think and fun doing this show too. This was a highlight of it too. I enjoyed knowing that we'd get to do this after
Yes,
every episode.
100%, 100%. Now, putting you on the spot, ranking them. Obviously, not better than Andor.
No,
Did you like this show better than Ahsoka?
no, no, I didn't.
I think I
I do think
enjoy
that I
Ahsoka
think
more.
it's made better,
Yes.
maybe in overall,
Yeah.
but I definitely enjoyed Ahsoka more. But that's also actually, you know what? I was gonna say it's not fair. That's not true. I was gonna say it's not fair because Ahsoka feels like a continuation of Rebels in a way,
Which it
and I
is.
love Rebels. You
Yeah.
love Rebels.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It could be a fresh, like the Mandalorian. I like more than Ahsoka, and that wasn't based on anything,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So you'd put Mando over this show.
oh yeah,
Okay.
easy.
And now Kenobi.
No, Kenobi I put beneath it. I like Kenobi less than this show. I don't know where you are on that, but
I think Kenobi had quite a few more missteps.
yeah,
Kenobi is closer to the bottom than I unfortunately would
I
like to
think
admit.
I could take like 40 minutes out of the Kenobi series, 40 minutes total. Be like, man, that's some really good stuff you have there, and most of it is you and McGregor talking and being sad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't. Yeah, it's not like I hate Kenobi or anything. It's just it was really disappointing just because we had a long
So
time.
much more
and,
potential
you know,
than wasted
it
potential,
went.
I think.
That was one of those things that just was an unfortunate. Like felt like it was an unfortunate result of being rewritten a million times and repurposed a million times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would put this above that.
Okay. Yeah. And then obviously higher than Acolyte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Little
double
bit.
checking.
A little bit. I was gonna say I consider Boba Fett and Mando one thing,
Oh, okay.
but where would you? I'm curious what you think of that. I think those 2 episodes of Boba Fett are enough to put it over, just because those 2 episodes are so good. But they're Mando episodes, so
Yeah. Well, here's the problem. I haven't gone back to Boba Fett. I've only did one, maybe.
either.
Like I might have rewatched episodes, but I haven't gone back. But I haven't gone back to a lot of these Star Wars shows. I'm kind of the hard
It's true.
person to ask about these kind of things because I've said on multiple podcasts I really only watch stuff once. I'm rewatching episodes for the reviews, but
Yeah.
otherwise, if I watch any of these shows, I'm watching Andor over again, right? Just because that's where I'm.
I'm a
invested
serial
in it.
rewatcher. I rewatch stuff all the time. You know
Yeah.
this. I've talked about it all the time. I'll watch things I like a million times over, and that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
The only Star Wars shows I've watched more than once in the Disney Plus era, Andor, and the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian.
Yeah,
That's it.
I've watched Mandalorian over one other time just to catch up. I think
Yeah.
into season 3.
When Mando came out, man, it was
Huge.
it was huge.
Huge.
It felt like for me, it felt like a Game of Thrones kind of thing. Yeah, I couldn't wait
Yeah.
for the next episode. And it was I don't know that we've captured that since, but
But that's the
hopefully
thing. I was
soon
like,
we'll have-
I don't know if I'm gonna come back to Skeleton Crew.
I mean, I would definitely watch it, because we'll be. But yeah, oh, you mean like
This season
like rewatch? Sorry.
over again.
Yeah, I thought you meant like if they made a second season. I'm like,
No.
man, whoa. No, I get you. Yeah,
No.
I'm not gonna rewatch unless like I convince my nephew
Yeah.
that it's worth watching.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it too.
Yeah. I don't know if my daughter, she still kind of defaults to watching Acolyte again. And I asked her the other night, I was like, oh, there's a new episode of Skeleton Crew. Do you want to watch it? And she's like, yeah, I guess. Like, she wasn't really that into
Yeah,
it. I mean, we've been watching, like, a lot more Wicked and stuff with her. She's into the musicals.
that's okay.
But
That's okay.
But I'd probably end up watching it with her again if she wanted to. But in my free time, which is very limited, I doubt I'm going to come back to this show.
I agree.
But it probably is a better watch with all the episodes, and you could just kind of, go through it or have it in the background or whatever. And I'm not saying anyone who enjoys it that they shouldn't. That's not what we're
No.
saying here at all. I think just for our preferences, it's just not that show. But there's a lot of shows I just haven't gone back to, so that's not very new. But well, what's crazy is I had that list, right, of shows. I forgot Mando and Boba Fett on that list.
It's crazy.
I was like, oh,
That's
let
crazy.
me add those and ask. I mean, these shows aren't anything on HBO besides Andor. Like,
And that's
They just
that's
don't
part of the thing for me
size
is I watch so many shows concurrently. I was watching like a different show. There was like 5 different shows per week while I was watching Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
And it's just something I kind of go back to where it's like all these shows just feel like they're just taken a little more seriously, I guess.
Yeah.
Not saying the subject matter per se,
right.
but it just feels a little more better. better quality all
Yeah.
around.
Well, I think
And
it's
so
because it's
then,
just
like,
more.
sometimes when I go to the Star Wars shows, it does, and I love Star Wars, and that's the
Yeah.
reason I'm watching the show. But, sometimes I wish that it just feels like there's something that I don't know what it is. There's something that's just not out there.
I think is when you try to target everyone, you target no one. If we were talking about audience, right? This one's geared towards kids, so I don't mind it not targeting me.
Sure,
But
yeah, I agree.
if we think about just some more recent stuff, Penguin is very focused and intentional, very good. So far, Creature Commandos, just because of the deepness of those characters, really
Yeah.
push it a show up in quality. I think with Disney, sometimes I feel like they're just trying to fill a calendar of content.
There's something I've been thinking about too, and this might be more a sign of just the times in general.
Yeah.
And this may be something that, and for better or worse, I think it's, there should be content for everyone. But if you think about the biggest franchises that have kind of spawned in the last 10 years, I do think that, I won't speak for everyone, but I do think that there's like kids these days seem to watch, I don't know if I'd say mature content, but Stranger Things was huge, right?
Yeah.
As a full cast of kids, and there are some graphic scenes later in the seasons and whatnot, and maybe in the end of the first season. I've known so many like cousins and like friends have nephews or kids or whatever who watch that show religiously, and it blew up. But it is still a pretty serious subject matter. Game of Thrones, obviously, very serious. The Walking Dead is very serious. It almost feels like maybe they're gonna falling behind a little bit if they don't make more like, I don't even want to call it adult content, but it just feels like there's a line you can mature. There's a line where like teenagers will flock to it, but also adults will flock to it. I
don't. But see, that's kind of the confusing thing, because what is the intention of Skeleton Crew?
True. More so Star Wars as a whole right now, I think, and not Skeleton Crew specifically. I think that like it's just majority of what they're making seems to be skewing like a little farther younger on the younger side.
Yeah,
which is fine, I think there's a place for it. But I do think that maybe I don't know what they're. I don't know. I miss movies.
I don't. I also don't think they know what they want to do, because they're kind of floundering. They're drowning and trying to figure out what the next step is. And I hope they can figure out soon, because I like when, we have Andor. And
you know what? Andor's going to come out, and we're just going to be saying, we're going to be on the other side of that, where it's like, oh, well, I know I'm saying all this. They should have more mature or like content, and here it is.
Yeah.
In a couple months.
Yeah. But, and that's what I would say about, like, I don't think all shows need to be for everyone. I think there should be shows for kids, and there should be shows for adults, but adults can still enjoy the kid shows. Like, even something as simple as like Bluey. There is a lot of great content there.
100%
with the adults, and it's a kid show, but as a parent watching it, I'm like, oh, that was for me. And I think Skeleton Crew has that. I would like to see the show grow up as the kids grow up. That would be my preference. So,
and to be fair, like you think about like Pixar movies, I feel like a lot of times when you watch like Inside Out 2, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that obviously that movie is for families, kids, I guess, but I mean I watched that movie and got a lot out of it.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
100%. 100%.
There's a way to do it.
Yeah,
I thought the show was good.
The Skeleton Crew is a step in the right direction.
I agree.
And I think if we continue to move this way, get the right directors, get the right writers in for it, I think Star Wars can improve.
And you know what? They released it right, I think, because I think that both of these shows this and The Acolyte could have been released. Either one of them could have been released first, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And I am glad that they released this one second, just because plenty of people love The Acolyte. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just think that this show, less people watched it, but
I
don't know. It was a little more like people pleasing, I guess, in a way. Like it more broadly.
I think it's gonna be like an easy watch.
I agree. That's what it is. I guess
you're just like, I'm sick and tired of watching like murders and violence, and like, let me watch something in an IP that I already love, a Star Wars, and it's fun. It's lighthearted for the most part, and the stakes aren't super high. We don't have to worry about people killing each other. Like, there is room for that content nowadays. Again, we're just speaking from two perspectives over like millions of people who are subscribed to Disney Plus. But I think this show will age well. I think it'll hold up, and I think a lot of people will eventually find it. if it stays on Disney Plus. And yeah, it's positive. I'm very positive about this show, and hopefully they could get a season 2 and keep it going. Do you think Jod gets off this planet?
I think if they make a season 2, he shows up. I don't think he needs to. Still, my preference would be, I guess, similar to what you said. I guess less so the show growing up with the kids, like season by season, but I wouldn't mind if, like, in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, they make another, I don't know, a continuation, or even if they make another show. And I guess my preference would probably be these characters showing up rather than like a second season.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
I am interested in the characters and I want to see where they go.
Yeah.
I just at this point don't know what like a second season of Skeleton Crew is. They put the shit back together and they go flying around. But
no, my friend. We talked about it before. The First Order comes and tries to get these dataries.
Yeah, but like the kids are just gonna still be on the planet working. Like all these credits, there's so many
that's
credits.
What I'm saying. Yeah, so the New Republic's there, right? Sure. They didn't have that money going into the sequels, right?
Well, they may have. That those planets were pretty expensive.
That's true. Actually, that's true.
Osnium Prime and all that. They have a lot of money.
I want to see. I feel like Atten having all this money means something to the Star Wars universe. Whether that be the First Order, whether that be Thrawn, right?
Yeah.
Now the planet is vulnerable, so we could see people trying to get into Atten, not just pirates, but just any other faction. So I think it's open. It's really open for that.
I guess so. I guess if we had like another season in say 3 years, these kids are now like 13, 14, 15, 16,
but I don't
whatever.
think it's a Skeleton Crew thing. I think it's like,
okay, I see.
I think like you said, oh hey, this is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Yeah, and there's a reference to the funds from.
I'm into seeing that for sure. I like that idea. I just don't know that I want like a second season of them hanging out on AT-AT and or like going on another. I mean, maybe you can cobble together another adventure, but I'd be more interested in seeing these characters show up in other places.
I think another part of it too is the pirate theme didn't really add to the show for me. It could have been any other faction, to be honest.
Yep.
And most factions in Star Wars are greedy, so I think for me that's it's like for me I was like, okay, this didn't like materialize like I thought it would. Again, I was looking for that space adventure where we're going planet to planet trying to find our way back home, and we found it back in like 5 episodes, so I wanted to see jungles of planet. Oh, for some reason we're on Dagobah, for some reason we're going through the outer rim planets trying to find our way back. I feel like that the potential of the show could have been wider, but again, they wrote it the way they did, and that's not the show I got. So yeah, but again, it wasn't directly written for me.
Retrospective indeed.
Yeah,
I think it was a good time. It was a fun time.
It was still a fun time though.
We got Neil Nation.
Yeah, we got Neil. We got a great character. We got a few great characters. KB's great, Fern's great, Neil's great. I would love to see them in more Star Wars stuff. I think, like you said, maybe the characters could be in other things where we see an older KB super engineer that Hera needs to talk to. Because, I mean, anyone could have been in the Corvette. It could have been Leia. Could have been Hera.
We don't know how it happened, but KB helped engineer Starkiller Base.
They stole her plans for a planet that could protect just something like that. But we'll see. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. Any predictions for season 2? If you agree with our ratings, what your rating is. If you agree with Eli, if it's as low as a 6.5, or me as a 7.5, I guess, or
positive
worse,
6.5.
Positive 6.5, which on the reigncore scale, that's above average. That's good. It's good. With that being said, Eli, thank you so much for doing these 8 episodes with me. You will see more of us on the reigncore channel. Please check in the descriptions our link trees for all the other things that we do. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I really hope you have a great rest of your galactic evening. Punch it, Chewie! Boom! We're out of here.